Welcome back, everyone, to the Know Something Required podcast, a podcast where we talk about nothing. And tonight, for our trio, we have a special guest subbing in for Audrey Ember. We have the man about tech himself, Viper, coming in from the top rope. And your final host, who is also the final boss in all of your challenges in life, whom you will probably not overcome, the Dark Lord of the Internet himself, Roberto Blake. Welcome to the Know Something Required podcast, filmed in front of a live YouTube audience. Please like, subscribe, review, and do all of the things.
Woo! Fire. That was an intro.
I think that was an intro. I think that might have been my greatest intro of all time.
I feel like I missed the memo here because you guys are both wearing hats.
We about that life. That's on brand for us.
Well, you guys didn't tell me.
Well, you're Romina with the good hair. What are you going to wear a hat for?
Exactly. We can't.
My hair is my hat.
Everybody ain't got good hair like you do.
Yeah, Romina's got that good. So, like, I mean, what are you going to do?
How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing well.
I'm doing all right.
Oh, just I.
I'm all right. I mean, I'm a little bit annoyed off of my own topic for tonight about those who can't be coached.
Oh man, do you want to jump right in?
Actually, I want our special guest.
Oh, you want to throw him under the bus?
I want our special guest to lead with tonight's probably most spicy of topics.
Oh boy. Spice. Oh man. All right. Well, you asked for it. Just remember, you asked for it.
I did.
You asked for it. So
I did.
You know, it's funny because I'm a little peeved. I'm more annoyed than anything. But me and Roberto were talking this morning, and I was talking about how it's really weird and crazy when people on the internet want to tell you how to spend your own damn money. So for those of y'all who don't know what I'm alluding to, Elon Musk put in a bid to buy Twitter, the whole entire platform, for $43 billion. Now,
$43 billion.
$43 billion.
I'm just upset that it wasn't 42 billion $69,000. I'm just like I just am.
Roberto, but he tried. He did each share at 54.20. So it's almost there.
I think he should have been extra and just given them more value and just made every share $69.42.
So my thing is, I'm not annoyed about Elon trying to buy Twitter, although I'm not really for it because I don't know about all that. But I'm more annoyed at the response. People keep saying, "Oh, you can take that money and spend it on something else, do something more important."
I want to let me in all those people's pockets and explain to them that all the junk they have in their house, you know what? You could be a homeowner and then you could stop whining and crying about it. And you could be a homeowner now. Just sell all of your junk. It's like, you didn't have to have that. It's like, oh, you could be a homeowner. Let's audit your finances. It's like, oh, you know what? You didn't need that this week. You didn't need that. Let me go in your pockets. Let me run them pockets real quick.
Like, and it's not just Elon. Anytime like a millionaire or billionaire makes like a large purchase or acquisition, we hear this stuff all the time. Well, you could have did other things with that money. Listen, they made the money legally. They are entitled to do whatever the hell they want with their own money. Why are you constantly?
I want there to be a rule of law. I want there to be a rule of law where if anyone tells you how to spend your money, you legally have the right to roundhouse kick them in the face without an assault charge.
Wow.
I would sign that into law. I would sign that bill. Absolutely.
Put that in the Constitution.
Viper for president.
I would sign that bill, definitely.
Because it's called, and you can, it'll be the mind your own damn business bill.
For real. Like, why? Like, you know what? Every time that this happens, I kind of feel like it's just people projecting their own failures and insecurities onto people that have money.
It is people projecting their own failures and everything like that, because here's my answer to that. You go be successful at something, you become a goddamn millionaire or billionaire, and then I demand that everyone that tweets that be signed into law, that they're obligated, that if they ever make $1 million, to give 90% of all of their millions away.
What they do it, y'all?
No, because they know they'll never make the money, so they'll sign it and knowing they'll never make the money to signal their virtue and everything like that. It's just like people who think that capitalism should end at just before $1 billion and cancel billionaires. These people are mentally ill. I'm not even going to be nice about it. Because it's like The average person, I hate to break it to people, the average person who's online has no idea how money works. They have no ability to allocate resources and capital. They have no ability to actually do a budget. Even if you gave them resources, every one of them, you let them win a lottery ticket, I guarantee you they'll be poor in 10 years. Most of them. I guarantee that 80% of people, given a lottery ticket, given $1 million overnight without having to earn it, do not have the capacity to properly allocate that money, invest that money, grow more money, build a business, deliver on any value. Because even when I ask people what they would do and how they'd allocate money in Twitter, it's a shit show. It's a travesty. Because most people, they would just blow it on going for a pipe dream because they're like, well, I'll never see that money again. So it's like, they won't even try to begin to think of how to allocate that money or invest it responsibly or build anything that has proven market demand. And you see it, It's like, given unlimited resources, most people do not have a level of financial education to make use of it. And they probably, you see it, the lottery curse is real. The lottery curse is real. Chat, let's be real. Don't talk about yourself. Chat, would most of the people you know if you gave most of the people that you personally know, are they responsible enough to where if you gave them $1 million, would they be able to grow that to $10 million in 10 years? Would they be able to? Would they be able to 10x that money in 10 years? Are they that responsible? Or is there a better chance that they're broke in 10 years, broke and struggling, or right back where they were? Most of the people you know, not you, because everyone gives themselves too much credit and a pat on the back for this, but the people you know, be very real. Your coworkers. They're your coworkers. You give them $1 million. Are they going to still be a millionaire in 10 years, or are they going to be not a millionaire in 10 years? Be real with me. Your broke cousin, your broke scrub cousin, your coworker, are they really going to be financially disciplined? Yes or no?
Habits are hard to break.
No.
Habits are hard to break.
And like
it's not just habits, it's also the mindset, right? Because I mean, they're being trained to be held down. And that's
facts. And that's just, learned helplessness is real.
Oh yeah, 100%. And it's sad, right? Because I mean, the control is there, right? You have the ability, we have the accessibility to be able to get out of that. I mean, I am a testament. I mean, Roberto knew me pre where I'm at now.
Yeah.
And he saw my character arc.
Oh my God, the progress you made, the discipline you showed, the commitment to saving, sacrificing, delaying gratification in all levels.
And that's what it took in less than 5 years, right? Mm-hmm. Imagine where I'm going to be in 5 years from now.
Oh my God, it's not even close. It's not even close.
Done.
My storyline arc to where I am and everything like that over the last 9 years that I've been really invested in this online thing, people can see the difference. It's a massive difference. My abilities on camera, my confidence, my ability to speak my mind, my ability to string together sentences without or a even in live stream, my live stream capabilities, my public speaking abilities, it's because of diligence. It's not purely talent. People think that everything is luck. The game of life is not a game of luck. It is a game of skill. It's a game of skill, fundamentally. And people keep talking about how deserving they think Elon Musk is, and they make up all these lies. They think every rich person exploited and plundered and looted. No one is going to have that narrative in 35 years for the most part and everything like that, because everyone's going to have to suck it up, because all these young influencers in their 20s that are all ethical as hell and all preachy as hell and everything like that, they're going to make all of their money because they were in their bedroom making TikTok videos and YouTube videos. They don't even have any damn employees to exploit for the most part. And then the ones who do, a lot of them, frankly, they're overpaying their teams and overpaying their employees and everything like that to be nice just so they won't be canceled. They're literally paying some people and getting screwed over and overpaying them just so they won't get canceled and say, oh, you're bad to your employees, because they see how it is. But all these YouTubers, they're going to make millions of dollars while they're young, invest it while they're young, and they're going to live for 3 decades, and that money is going to compound because their money in 30 years will have doubled 16 times. And that's what happens, by the way. That's how you can't work hard and earn $1 billion ethically. What you can do is, because technology lets you scale and have 1,000 true fans that will spend money with you. 1,000 true fans, they'll spend $1,000. 10,000 true fans, they'll spend $1,000. 100,000 true fans, they'll spend up to $1,000 in a lifetime with you, is enough to make you tens of millions of dollars and invested properly and allowed with compound interest, even in a market with 8% returns. I did a calculator, Romina. You know, my favorite thing in the world is to sit there and do compound interest calculators. I did a compound interest calculator. If somebody just makes even $1 million and they never invested again, and they never invested again, and they just let that money sit for, like, let's say you made $1 million. If you made $1 million because you're like a 20-something-year-old influencer, when you die, if you never invested again and the market only gave you 8% returns, which would be, you'd be a terrible investor. When you die, your kid starts with $119,590,183. So like basically $120 million. Your kid, if you invest $1 million and you leave it alone in an index fund for 60 years because you made it in your 20s and you forgot about it, your kids or grandkids in 60 years, when you're dead and gone, before the government takes a big chunk of it, your kids would be entitled to get $120 million. And that's considering if you never invested anything again, and if you were like one of the worst people at investing and you only got like the 8% market returns and just barely beat inflation, like that's what happens. That's what happens. So don't tell me that someone, now again, if you were one of these YouTubers or influencers who do this and they get 10 million, because a lot of these kids, they make that in 5 years, and you put all of that away and just said, okay, the first 5 years of my career, invest that money, put it away. When you're dead and gone, your people would be looking at $1 billion. Like 10 million is the buy, 10 million and a couple of decades is the buy into being a billionaire. That's all it is. It's math. It's just math. And guess what? People let me ask both of you a question. What percentage of what percentage of other people's money do you feel entitled to? What percentage of someone else's money do you guys feel entitled to?
None. I don't want to sign anybody's money. I want to make my own money.
All the money.
Of course.
Right. Right. Sure. All or nothing, right? Yeah, give me all your stuff or I don't want none of it, right?
Yeah, all or bust.
Right? So like no one's entitled. I'm not entitled to any percentage of somebody's money if I didn't contribute to their success. Like I'm not entitled to any percentage of that.
You know, I feel that
nobody's entitled to any of my
I feel that way about my parents.
Mm-hmm.
You what?
I feel that way about my parents even. Like I get to that point where it's like, yeah, I don't feel entitled to anything. Anything that belongs to anybody else. And that even includes my parents.
But
I know that everything
you got 18 years of like
right, and I know that everything that's theirs is ultimately mine because they're like that. But yeah, I don't feel
like it's owed to you.
Yeah, exactly.
The thing is that you two are the minority, because I think the majority feels like they're entitled to shit, and it's just ridiculous.
Like for what? For what? Here's a sad truth, Viper. Here's a sad truth. Everyone is rewarded in America according to their contributions. The end. And I know people don't want to believe in that, and they don't believe capitalism works or anything like that. But it's like, oh, monopolies exist. Twitter, we'll talk about that. Twitter being a monopoly. Twitter's a monopoly of meritocracy. And as for Elon, everyone wants to talk about Elon as some oligarch. Elon is just a smart person. And, you know, like any number of smart people who had more resources, there were people that existed that had more resources than Elon Musk, and they didn't do anything with it. And they didn't do anything with it. Before Elon Musk was ever rich, Bill Gates was already a billionaire. Warren Buffett, already a billionaire. There were people who are already multimillionaires and successful, and they did not make PayPal, and they did not make Tesla, and they did not make SpaceX. They didn't. The governments of the world could have solved digital online payments, and they didn't invent PayPal. I submit unto you, here's the thing. I know people hate billionaires, and they think every billionaire, and they talk about American oligarchs, and I think all of them are full of crap. I think all of them are full of crap, because here's the truth. The governments of the world, for my entire lifetime, 38 years, have not done jack. They done jack. The governments of the world have spent hundreds of trillions of goddamn dollars. And what did the governments of the world produce? Because the last time I checked, the billionaires that everyone wants to hate on, the last time I checked, We ended up with digital online payments. We ended up with the digital internet companies that revolutionized and democratized education, independence, self-employment. Say everything you want about Jeff Bezos. Whatever crimes, whatever people you think he exploited, it's a freaking bargain for e-commerce and Amazon and the logistics of that, and Amazon Web Services and the automation and the engineering talent and everything that we have that also makes the US as powerful as a competitor in the global marketplace compared to China that it is today. I thank God for Jeff Bezos and thank God for Amazon for everything they've done for America and helping us stay innovative and helping us stay ahead and everything like that. So thank God for Jeff Bezos. Thank God for Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos could be 10 times worse than everything they've ever printed about and believed, and it'd still be a bargain in terms of the net good to America and the net good to humanity in terms of the value created, Period. End of story. Not even up for a debate. It's just facts. PayPal, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, the rest of the PayPal mafia, disproportionately the ability for people to be online entrepreneurs, the ability for people to go around and get donations and crowdfunding and get support from people who are strangers that happen to care about them. Literally, every e-beggar on the internet should actually be thankful to Peter Thiel and Elon Musk and the billionaires and everything like that because they can e-beg now. They can e-beg. So be grateful to the billionaires.
E-beggar? I kind of
like no, it's like look, and everybody, oh, he didn't build it alone and everything like that. Great. The employees from PayPal that decided to go leave early and do their thing, Chad Hurley and his two crew members, you know what they did? They left. They had good salaries. They left. And what they did was they were trying to build a dating site because every 20-something-year-old coder and engineer just wants to get laid and build a dating website because that's how it is back in 2005 and stuff like that. And they built a little website called YouTube that we're on today, and they sold it for $1.6 billion. If you like, look, here's the thing. If you're an employee of somebody and you don't like the way the company is, you do what I do, do what I did. I left the company, and I left a $35K salary and everything like that, and I 10x'd it in 10 years. Go do that. If you're good enough, you'll be able to do it. If you're the kids from PayPal, Chad Hurley and them, you leave PayPal, you build YouTube, and you do that in 2005 with like crap resources compared to 2020.
Hold on.
So like, don't cry to me.
Just because somebody didn't build something on their own that
it doesn't diminish the fact that it's like the people that they employ like would not have used that talent and allocated their talent and resources and abilities without the vision of the founder. Steve Jobs didn't build Apple alone and everything like that. And guess what? I
just don't understand that's relevant, you know?
Wozniak wanted safety and stability security. He didn't want to change the world. Steve Jobs did. Wozniak would have been a waste of talent without Steve Jobs. He would have been a waste of talent sitting at a company somewhere, not changing the world, not making people's lives better.
When you have collaborations like that, there's always like a give and take, and somebody always is bringing something to the table, and somebody always brings something a little more to the table. I mean, that's how group projects work. There's always somebody who's doing 80% of the work in a group project. That's just how it is. That's
here's the thing, Romina, are there times where the 80% is not as valuable as the 20%?
In terms of individuals or in terms of the work? Because
here's the thing. If 80% of the work is grunt work, is that valuable without 20% of leadership, direction, and focus and accountability? Or would that just be squandered labor?
That matters the most.
So the thing is, you could look, all of the people who do all of the labor that everyone said without direction, they would just be doing something that creates no actual scalable value, because that's what they were doing when they were somewhere, when they were a value creator. I'll give you a primary example. There's a reason why someone leaves Ford to go work for Tesla. Here's why someone leaves Ford to go work for Tesla. Here's why people have left NASA to go work for SpaceX, because the work that they're doing will significantly improve and change the world at scale versus just giving them a salary and making them profitable. It's why somebody does that. The reason I left the company I worked at was because I could just basically keep making those people rich, or I could have freedom and autonomy, but also I could serve more people. And I could do more good for the world being on my own than working for the company, because the vision and the leadership in that company was not good. So the thing is, hard work is meaningless if not applied in a direction that creates real value. Everyone over glorifies labor. Anybody can run around and expend energy and do labor. Someone can dig a ditch that goes nowhere, but someone who digs a ditch with the instructions of making that an irrigation ditch that can help a sustainable garden in a community, that same labor with vision and purpose and direction and instruction feeds people. It feeds people if we do that, if you do it right. But if you just dig a hole, it's the same work and it accomplishes nothing.
Make a point. Definitely.
But how often do you run into people like this?
I don't know if I would say I run into people, but just observing how people respond to different things like this on the internet, I would surmise there's a whole lot of them out there. I mean, there are people out there that are perfectly content working their regular 9 to 5 and working for someone else. And then there are people like all of us here that want to work for ourselves and not work for somebody else's dream. And I just feel like, you know, it's cool which side you want to be on, which side of the track you want to be on. It's cool. But don't look down on the other people that are on the other side of the track that don't have your same beliefs. Like, if Viper doesn't want to work on 9 to 5 forever and I want to go try to do something on YouTube, don't look down on me before wanting to be on YouTube and build something for myself. Because I don't like going into a 9 to 5 and working for somebody else and having managers breathe it over my damn shoulder and try to micromanage everything that I'm doing. I ain't about that life. Just leave me alone and let me work. So if I can work for myself and not have to worry about somebody trying to micromanage me and all that, that's how I prefer to work. You might need that structure and that micromanagement.
Exactly.
I'm about that life.
It's a difference in what people want for themselves. It really is. And I mean,
got that elite mindset.
Yeah. And you can, some people can hybrid it. Some people can hybrid it. If you find a job situation that lets you keep your own personal brand, your own side hustle and everything like that. I mean, you have that, Viper. I mean, it's like, if I could have had that at a company, I would have, if it's a company whose values I believed in and whose leadership I believed in, because that's what's important to me. What's important to me is, I'll be frank with y'all, I can't work for people who aren't smarter than me. It's not a good idea for them. It's not a good idea for me. And I'll tell you why. I'm incapable of not truly being honest and forthright about when I think something's a bad idea, or when I think people are underperforming, or when I think I'm overperforming and I'm not interested in being corrected by someone performing less than. I have no interest in being corrected by someone performing less than me. I never have. I would tell my managers and stuff like that. It's like, am I not number like in the top 10 in sales in the district? Yes or no? Yes. Am I not in the top 3 in sales in the store? Yes. Am I not outselling people who have more hours and shifts than me? Yes. Then it's like, then why are you telling me that I spend too much time with the customers? I would argue everyone else doesn't spend enough time with the customers that actually want to buy. You're more interested in me looking like I'm catering to everybody, instead of recognizing there are people who want to be left alone and there are people who want to be sold to. You're trying to reprimand me for being more efficient because you have a way that you like your store run. I was not capable of lying about the efficiency issues. I'm just not capable. I cannot help myself. So I'm not compatible with anything where I work in something less than a meritocracy. If people got their position because, oh, I'm the son of the owner or something like that, and I'm not capable, that's not going to be a good place for me to work, because I'm going to.
Can I interject here for a second?
Yeah.
I want to just bring up something about that's going on in the chat right now.
Okay.
I just want to be clear that we do not see Elon as a lord. He is not.
I will indoctrinate him into the Order of the Sith Lords if he likes.
He is a. I will speak for my own opinions. He is a human, and he is mortal, and he has problems just like the rest of us, in various degrees that are different than the rest of us.
Primary example being staying married.
Right, exactly. I mean, that's to maybe to a lot of people, they might think, oh, well, that's not such a bad thing, but like for us, that's like a life goal, right? That's something, that's a milestone that we would like to have, and we like to have like our families and stuff. That is something that is a negative for us, you know. And truth be told is that even if he does bad things, he does other things that are good for the whole, right?
Disproportionately. Because here's the thing, the worst things we can say about Elon Musk typically come down to, you may feel like, all right, people's quote unquote legitimate criticisms. They feel that he participates in market manipulation via his tweets. First of all, the most of our sitting members of Congress can be accused of doing exactly that because they're doing market manipulation, inflation, currency debasement. They actually, with their tweets and their rhetoric and things, affect the stock price of brands all the time. They do legislation that affects the stock price of brands all the time, and it costs plenty of people their pensions. It costs plenty of people a lot of these problems and everything like that. Government shutdowns do that. So Congress is more directly able to impact that than Elon Musk. Number two on that same score, the collective of influencers in various niches, whether that's cryptocurrency, Dogecoin, Bitcoin, Ethereum, all that stuff, their collective voices and participation are much more meaningful than Elon Musk in terms of his ability to move the needle in the markets. And we can actually measure that. We can actually measure that in real time. So that's like not really that big of a valid concern. And those things actually map up a very small portion of the investments in capital over a very small niche segment of retail investors in the first place. The people who actually have the most ability to manipulate those things to their advantage are the larger long-term hodlers and people who are super active in those communities. And I'll give you a primary example. Wall Street bets had more of an impact over a larger amount of the movement of assets in the same period of time and window of time as Elon Musk when you're talking about GameStop and you're talking about AMC. So even that is a bad argument. And then in terms of, you don't like the way he does business, you wouldn't like the way that 90% of successful people probably do business, because here's the thing, there's no morality in business. I hate to break that to people. There's no morality in business. There's no morality in statesmanship. America was founded on genocide. So what? Like you gotta sit there and cry every day because you wake up as a beneficiary of enslavement and genocide, and you're gonna apologize for that. You're gonna give up all your wealth over that and everything like that. It's like you're gonna take the moral high ground. It's like, no, for real. I went there. Yeah, I went there. It's like, you think America's hands are clean in anything? Like, no. So there's that. So in terms of the idea of this ethical morality that everyone wants to preach about and everything like that, it's like, you want to do any of that? You want to care about that? Like, be a monk. Go be a monk. I'm not saying you have to.
Honestly, it's not bad to buy a company. Like if a company
be lawfully good, be lawfully good.
Why is it bad to acquire a company? Like if a company is failing, right? For example, or if you think that you could run a company better, why not just buy it?
Give back America. America snaked everybody out of all of its land ownership. Give back America. Then give up. Every one of us exiled. Give up America. How about that?
Well, the recent criticism of Elon as it relates to him buying Twitter is that they feel like he wants to enable free speech or whatnot. And people feel like that's going to open up a whole can of worms about free speech.
The can of worms they're worried about is they don't want Trump to come back, and they feel they embolden MAGA people, and they'll feel embolden MAGA people. And the reality is the people concerned about that don't want to coexist with people who disagree with them, because Elon will make Twitter what it's supposed to be as a virtual government and nation state in the virtual world, which is this. It's supposed to be neutral. It's supposed to be neutral, and you're supposed to have to coexist with people you disagree with. There are plenty of people that everyone has to coexist with leftist propaganda and people on that side and everything like that, but they don't want to coexist with right-leaning propaganda, or they don't want to, or again, anyone right to them that's a centrist is now enabling, like Elon's a centrist. Elon is not some Trump supporter or MAGA person. He's just not. He's in the center, which is, by the way, where most of America is in the center, and is always forced to choose between two bad options that don't really represent what they want. All the time. But the thing is, every 20 years, we have a swing between the left and the right co-opting free speech. The left was for free speech when it was about giving minorities platforms and power and marginalized people and so on and so forth and equal rights. And then it got to that place. And then it became about, okay, the threat to that from that perception is people who are more conservative, traditional, and right-leaning. And so it became now an effort, instead of just getting to equality, of then marginalizing and silence those people. So now those people feel that they don't have a place and they don't have a voice, because I've literally seen people canceled for the crime of being a Republican. I'm not even joking. Scott Cawthorn, the creator of Five Nights at Freddy's, canceled because they doxed and they harassed his pregnant wife, and because they doxed his voting record for literally the crime of voting Republican and donating to Republicans. I'm not even joking. So So this is something that happened. So you can't tell me that there's not a problem with free speech in a world where the idea is that we need to do things like that. And again, it's the left that does all the thought policing now. And I can tell you that 25 years ago in this country, it was the right doing thought policing. It was the right doing thought policing when they wanted to ban Mortal Kombat. It was the right doing thought policing when they wanted to ban The Simpsons, when they wanted to censor South Park. You remember that it was the right that used to be anti-free speech. But I'm telling you, this pendulum swings back and forth every 20 to 30 years. What we need in virtual platforms is we need people to go back to civility. We need coexistence, and we need accountability in terms of not spinning up sock puppet accounts. And we need to have accountability in not having harassment, hate mobs, and cancel culture. And I believe that those should be neutral issues that most people should agree on.
Romina, I have a question for you. Roberto just brought up a good point about people being unable to disagree with each other. Why do you think people are so like against people that don't agree with them? Like you see it every day on the internet about people fighting about this side or that side, and they just, for whatever reason, they just can't accept the fact that somebody doesn't agree with them. Why do you think that is?
I think it's because humans are based in tribalism.
Romina.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
That's all right. I was trying to think about the question. You asked why people can't handle other people disagreeing with them?
Yes.
I think it's because it questions it questions their view of reality. Is one thing. It changes the worldview. It presents a worldview that is not something that they're comfortable with because they've created like this reality that makes them feel safe. And whether that reality is reality or not is questionable. But because of the fact that they have created this bubble, it bothers them that somebody has come in and popped it, essentially. And so they can't handle that kind of thing. That's one psychological reason for it.
Did you guys, when you guys were young and growing up, did you guys like ever watch the show Dawson's Creek?
Why?
Because there's a line from a main character that was played by Katie Holmes. Her character's name was Joey Potter, and she was playing basically the poor character from a family that had been disgraced. Her father went to jail. They were on hard times. Her sister had a baby out of wedlock. Her older sister had a baby out of wedlock. There was a little bit of like racial bias because like it was a biracial relationship, and she had a biracial child, and it's like so her family had all this baggage and all this disgrace, and she was supposed to be the smart girl that's going to make good and go to college and get out or whatever. And so she made this line where she said that I hate and resent the identity of being little Joey Potter from the wrong side of the creek, but it's the only identity I have. And so when anyone threatens or challenges that identity, I dig in and I go for the jugular, because even if I absolutely resent my life and resent my identity, this is all I know. And that's all I know how to do is defend it. And so I think people are like that. I think people inherently, even if they don't like where they are in life, even if they don't like their situation, even if they know that they are looking at the world in a distorted way, it's the only worldview that they have. It's the only experience they have. It's the only way they have to relate themselves in any way. And it's the only, it's whatever little validation or comfort or anything that comes from that is all that they have. And so anyone who threatens any small part of it takes it away from them, invalidates it in any way, challenges it in any way, they have to destroy them. They have to destroy them because that's how they protect themselves. It's self-preservation. It's a completely natural and valid instinct, as warped and diluted as it is. It's perfectly human and natural, and I understand it.
It's online. This is also an offline behavior as well, because it happens. There's a little bit of fear that comes into it as well. And it is also part of your protection, right? So there's like that response that you get when something is scary.
Fight, flight, or freeze.
Right, exactly. And so because of that, there is that hesitancy to, like, for example, if you are afraid of like something like a concept, let's say, and it is because you are not knowledgeable, you're not informed on that concept, becoming informed will give you that opportunity of either one, still remaining afraid, or two, not being afraid anymore. And both of those are very scary, because one means that you're still going to be scared, and the other one means that your whole worldview is being disrupted. And so because of that, a lot of people decide to remain uninformed, and so they remain scared. And so because of that, they remain protected, because they don't have to step into that void, into that area where they might be in danger, because now all of a sudden, what if the other person is correct?
And I agree with you. And I also, they're talking about this in the chat. Like, so the thing is, in seeking comfort, we seek confirmation bias. So we seek out people who can validate our worldviews and who will support us. And the thing is, I feel that a lot of influencers leverage that in bad faith, and they use it to their own advantage and for their own financial benefit and gain. Some of them are very, very disingenuous. I'm not calling anyone out in particular, but anyone can think about their own experiences and come to their own conclusions on that. But there are a lot of people who appropriate these things or manipulate people's vulnerabilities and identity for their financial benefit, and by offering some validation and support by using their talking points. And so that's the thing. And it's very intellectually dishonest. And I think it's a very bad practice, but there's not much to be done about it. The only thing that happens is eventually, because people, sometimes people are stupid, but that can only last so long. That can literally there's a timeline, there's a shelf life to that. People catch on, and then they definitely call that out, and they rebel, and they try in their own ways to hold those people accountable, whether you agree with the method they take or not. And so that happens a lot of times. And so people's audiences, to some extent, do exist as an accountability mechanism, as for public figures, to some extent. Not always appropriately and not always accurately, though, but fair enough. The other thing I will say about this thing, though, because I love the points that you brought up, and even some of the points here in the chat, is something that happens to people without realizing it is we keep rejecting, and we talk so negatively about tribalism. What if we accepted the darker parts of our nature? Because the problem I have with the current state of social media and a lot of these conversations about money, morality, ethics, all of it, is that morality and ethics are fluid, predicated on generational values, religious values, and cultural values, and ethnocentric values. There are too many variables in the way in which there's no universal ethics and no universal morality. The closest thing we came to that was agreeing to adhere to the rule of laws that we are governed by. That is the closest thing we did, because the thing is, we have to preserve people's autonomy and freedom to believe what they want to believe. And the thing is, a lot of people, if depending on literally just your cultural values, will exist outside of those things. And they won't adhere to what your culture or religion's moral standards or ethical standards are, or whatever other belief systems you subscribe to. You have to coexist with those people, and you have to allow them to have differing beliefs from you, and you still have to respect them, and you still have to not discriminate against them.
Okay, here we go. Roberto, I got something for you right here. So why isn't it hard for human beings to do that, though? Because obviously, situations, we respond differently to different situations. Like, for example, if me and you have a hot dog and you want ketchup on your hot dog and I want mustard on mine, although I hate mustard, but for the example, it works. We can accept that. There's no problem. You get your hot dog with ketchup, I get my mustard. We talk, we chat, we do what we do. But if it gets to something then like, I like dating outside my race, and you're like, no, I'm staying within my race, it's a whole ass problem. Why can't you just accept that?
I should be allowed to respect your preferences.
Right, exactly.
And it also doesn't affect me. And the fact that just because you and I are both black men doesn't mean we have to have a monolithic agreement on what our dating preferences or behavior as men or black men should be. We should be able to allow to coexist with variations of humans that want to live their lives the way they want to live their lives, and the way that they want to live their lives, as long as they're complying with the rule of law that we have all, for the most part, agreed to or continue to live with, unless we vote to change those laws. And those laws, though, because of the Constitution's governing principles, have to be consistent with respecting individual sovereignty, autonomy, and your property rights. When people say billionaires shouldn't exist, I'm like, then you don't believe in and respect property rights, and you've decided to create a boundary at which property rights no longer exist. You've decided to create a boundary at which it's okay for you to make a determination about somebody's resources and somebody's possessions, which is an infringement on their individual sovereignty and autonomy, and I'm not okay with that. And if you get to control and decide what gets done with my resources, the thing you brought up, you get to decide where my money goes. Okay, how much, at what level of money? Because it's like, oh, well, you shouldn't need that much money. It's like, it's not the point. It's like, all right, you've decided this is the line in the sand where you can infringe on my autonomy as a human. You've decided that this is the point at which you can appropriate my resources. Okay, where does that end? Is there a point at which you can appropriate my body? Is there a point at which you can appropriate my mind? Is there a line at which you can eliminate my autonomy and appropriate and socialize some other aspect of my being? What is the limit at which you decide it is allowable or even necessary to infringe on my autonomy? And why is it predicated on my capabilities and my success? And why do you get to set a ceiling for what I am capable of and allowed to have and decide that that's unfair to somebody else? Why do you get that power? Who appointed you? Who appointed you? That's my problem with people and their custom. Because here's the thing: if we go by, and let's say I'd make the religion of Roberto Blake, and I decide, okay, here's the religion of Roberto Blake. We're all going under the moral and ethical values of the Sith Lords from now on. So everyone that exists outside the moral values of the Order of Sith Lords, the Brotherhood of Darkness, it's permissible to do to anyone that exists outside of our ethical values as we will, because we have the power to make it so. That's probably not a good idea. That's probably a very bad idea for everyone that exists outside the values of the Brotherhood of Darkness at that point. So that's probably not for the best for most people. It's probably a terrible idea to operate under that premise. That's what a theocracy is called, is where my belief system becomes the rule of law and is dominant and enforceable, and where I can use force to make sure that you comply and that I can compel your behavior and remove your autonomy to resist me and to act in some other way. That's a very terrible idea, to decide that the only people allowed freedom of speech, freedom of autonomy, and that their rights are predicated on what your ethics and moral values allow for. That's a terrible idea when it comes to if you want to respect humans and let them live their lives. Because here's the thing: the puritanical society hundreds of years ago did not believe in a lot of things. Just 50, 60 years ago, interracial marriage in this country, illegal in this country. And even what was made legal, it was deemed by many people to be immoral or unethical. Same-sex marriage was illegal and also deemed, even when it was legalized, there are people who think that it's immoral or unethical. Why does someone's existence have to comply with what you believe is moral and you believe is ethical? Isn't it sufficient that it's lawful? And shouldn't the law preserve the right for people to live as they choose with autonomy, respect, and dignity, and free of discrimination?
That would be nice.
And why shouldn't platforms that exist as virtual government, preserve the right for you to be able to live as you choose and speak your mind without having to be leveraged and pressured by people who decided they don't want to coexist with you? Do you really want to live in a world where people can say, okay, we're not going to coexist with these group of people? And do you think that just because you're on the winning team of that today, that you're going to stay on the winning team of that in 35 years? What if the shift goes the other way? You're not going to like it.
No doubt. Romina, what were we about to say?
Oh, I was just reacting to everything that was.
No, I was saying that it would be nice if the world was that way, but Roberto, unfortunately, I mean, as we know, the world is definitely not that way. I mean, and technically, they're trying to control what women can do with their bodies in terms of abortion and things like that. Stuff is out of control, man.
I think people should be allowed body autonomy. I think that if you want to, your body, your choice. But I believe that because I've always said for a very long time, many years, that I think that we should decriminalize marijuana, and that we should decriminalize sex work for the same purposes of being consistent on the values of body autonomy and the right to your own personhood. I've always believed in that. And if you're someone who's suffering with cancer and everything like that, I think people should be allowed to make their own choices about whether they want to continue to exist in that capacity. I think they have a right to make those choices. I'm consistent on the idea of human body autonomy. I don't think a lot of people are consistent on the idea of human body autonomy and rights. I think that they pick and choose and cherry pick, whereas I'm actually consistent across the board on that.
You have any thoughts, ma'am?
I was just going to say, speaking about autonomy, do we want to hop into the next topic?
Yeah, let's go with that.
All right. So a couple weeks ago, continuing talking about Elon, there was the cyber rodeo. And within that, Elon presented some new stuff that that they are working on. And one of those things is a full-on working robo-taxi. So this is a taxi that is fully autonomous. It's going to pick you up and drop you off wherever you need to go. And then one of the other things that was mentioned that I thought was interesting was the Optimus robot, getting that into the hands of the people. And Elon mentioned saying something like that this would change the world, what the word economy means. And I wanted to know what you guys think about robotaxis and having a little Optimus robot walking around.
Robotaxi. I mean, we've been
Viper, you're the man about tech.
You gonna throw it to me? Okay. Well, we've been talking about self-driving cars and fully autonomous cars for a while now, and I know Tesla and other companies out there have been doing testing on the road with these cars. The problem is that these cars, even though they're fully autonomous and controlled by AI, they don't have the nuances of the human brain, and they don't operate as human brains operate. They only operate within their program parameters. So if something happens outside of those program parameters, and it's not what the machine is programmed to handle, then you're talking about
if 90 to 95% of vehicles on the road are autonomous, what do you think the odds are of non-controlled conditions, though?
That is true. If more cars are out there autonomous, then you probably are going to have less incidents of accidents. But are we ever going to get to that point, though, of like having 95% vehicles being autonomous?
What percentage of people do you think in America have cell phones?
Probably in the 90s at this point.
Right. So I think it's the same thing. And I think it's a trajectory. I think it's about availability in the market, because the thing is, smartphones are predominantly the thing that most people in America have, not just cell phones, but smartphones on top of that, the proliferation of that. Wouldn't you say the majority of people in America at this point have personal computers? Like, remember, Steve Jobs' dream was a personal computer in every home. I think that's in America. That's pretty true, right? At this point. And the access to it is relatively affordable, because at this point it could be a $300 purchase, a $500 purchase.
There was a point where having a refrigerator in the house was
considered a luxury. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or your own washer and dryer. Your own washer and dryer.
Something that most people wouldn't have.
I like where your head is at, but I think there are a lot more barriers to achieving 95% autonomy cars on the road.
I think that the first step is more likely to go to a higher number of electric vehicles on the road. And I think that is the moment we're in, we're at the moment with electric vehicles where we were in.
We're already on the path to that.
I think with electric vehicles, which a lot of them have the option of they have the option, and it can be a firmware update. So that's the thing, is we have cars with more tech on them, which means that autonomy could be a firmware update later down the road. As far as the autonomous vehicle part of it. So that's the thing. Just like how today you have computers and they can upgrade the software and they can go to new capabilities from that. And that's just a matter of not anything with hardware. That's all software based and it's all cloud based. So I think we have the cloud infrastructure for this, for one thing, already. And I think we have the baseline of putting enough technology in cars to where it's going to be more realistic 15 years from now. I think where we are right now is we're at Viper. What year was Android OS released?
Well, the first Android came out in 2008, I believe.
It had to be before that, because the iPhone came out in 2007.
Yeah.
All right. Well, even if it's 2000, let's say it's 2007, 2008. That was the smartphone revolution, was it not? That was the genesis. That was the alpha. That was the alpha launch of smartphones, right? Mm-hmm. And that was like, what, 15 years ago. And they were a luxury item at that time, right? Luxury item, and relatively, like, you had to be kind of like middle class, and like smartphones, not cell phones, smartphones, right?
I want to go back to what you just said about us having the cloud infrastructure in place for self-driving cars. I don't think we are anywhere near.
You don't think we have enough? You don't think that we don't think we have enough cloud infrastructure for that now?
Have you tried the game through the cloud lately, Roberto? It ain't, no, absolutely not.
I've been doing fine with it. Like that's just
cloud. The cloud is not where it needs to be to like to house a network of cars yet.
I think that's more of an issue of the developers, not the cloud infrastructure itself. Because the thing is, we have the current cloud infrastructure we have right now that makes so much possible and everything. Like we do much more complex things than gaming, and gaming is much more complex than the what you'd have to do for a vehicle doing self-piloting, like as it is. Like actually, it's a game is infinitely more complicated because you don't have that many. You do not go through the amount of real-time inputs in an hour of driving that you do with 5 minutes of gaming. The real-time inputs that you do in 5 minutes of gaming are infinitely more than the real-time endpoints, variables, and data calculations required for an hour of driving. I can drive right now. I can drive right now from my house to Lowe's, and I only have to make, once I get out of my driveway, I only have to make 4 turns. And it's a 20-minute drive, but it's only 4 turns to my destination. If I get on the highway, I don't have to do a lot of anything for a very long time. So the number of
there's a lot of variables, right?
Yeah, the variables, and it's too many inputs. Where I think we are this moment in society when it comes to vehicles is I think we're at the alpha stage of those first couple of years right now, as of today. I think today is 2007 all over again. With the electric vehicle and autonomous vehicle industry, I think that we're there compared to where phones were 15 years ago. And I think 15 years from now, with the levels of innovation, investment, resources, and all of those things and what we figured out and the scale, that we will have normalized electric vehicles and made them affordable to the same extent that premium flagship smartphones were made available to the average person who buys a cell phone at all. Not to, when you say like people go working class or lower class Americans or people at the blah, 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 making this much. I'm saying in the same way that a person who buys a car today is the same way that someone who is buying a phone buys a phone today, you'll be able in 15 years to buy an electric vehicle in much the same way.
I'll tell you right now, yeah.
And there'll be levels of it. There'll be levels for it because we're already close. Because people talk about, oh my God, a Tesla is $50,000, as if there aren't people who buy $50,000 non-EV cars and have for a very, very, very long time. There are a lot of Ford F-150s on the road that cost $60,000 that Americans financed and everything.
I don't know why people bring the price into that, because like literally there's people who are buying $70,000-$80,000 cars. Right?
SUVs,
yeah, exactly.
And it's at normal dealerships. It's not even luxury cars. It's at normal. It's at normal dealerships. So the idea of spending $35,000, $45,000, $50,000 on a Tesla is not some absurd thing that's out of the range of the average American. Because the average American,
is she speaking from experience? Let me find out you bought it with an $80,000 car, Romina. Let me find out.
Yeah. So like I feel that where we are, like I feel like where we are right now, that we're like back in that like 2007, 2010 alpha run of where smartphones were. And that like 15 years from now, like electrical vehicles will be very common. And if you have electrical vehicles on the road, it's a matter of just a buy-in upgrade option. And that vehicle turns into an autonomous car.
Yeah, I mean, a lot.
So I think that's 15 years. 15 years.
Yeah, I think, 15 years to get to 95%, you're saying?
Well, maybe not 95%, but wherever we are comparatively with like people having Android and Apple devices or home computers, I think that wherever we are currently with like home computers of some kind or smartphones, whether it's Android or Apple, whatever the proliferation and penetration of that is in the U.S. market specifically, that's where we are in 15 years with these vehicles as well.
I mean, a lot of companies are looking to go electric by 2030 or whatever anyway. So we're definitely heading that way.
Yeah. So that's where I put the timeline of that. And here's the issue with it though. And but here's the thing. I believe that automation in general, the 15-year timeline, I think that's somewhat been accelerated in some verticals, decelerated in others by the pandemic. I think it's a bigger issue of the fact of like, okay, we will have these things and they will be convenient and they'll be great for the people who use them and enjoy them. Here's the thing that we're going to end up doing though. the mass displacement of workers is going to be a reality of the economy. And I'm not that terrified of it, because here's the thing. I've already told y'all, what I believe is we just have too many people who don't believe in themselves and are doing and settling into the bare minimum of what they can do and doing these low-level jobs and staying there because they're not encouraged to actually pursue economic mobility. And they're being made to think it's okay, and they're trying to get more out of that instead of more out of life. Trying to get a raise out of your boss instead of getting more out of life. I understand why people think that that's an ethics issue and all these things, but let me think about this. What do you think is more more reasonable to do? Do you think it's more reasonable to try for 4 years and hope that you'll get hope and change out of political elections and political parties and social movements and all these things? Do you think that it's more likely that you spend 4 years doing that and then things change for you and everyone like you and then are implemented well and then they're not reversed in another 4 to 8 years? Or is it more practical to spend 4 to 12 years literally just working on yourself and improving your capacity to do things in your own best interest? Do you realize how many skills you can learn that are really valuable, that could change your life over the course of 4 years and change your life in irreversible ways over 4 years, because you'll be able to use them for the rest of your life? I think it's more valuable to spend a year learning new skills, pursuing new opportunities, becoming more educated as a person, become more financially literate, just become better at being communication skills. I think that the confidence, because here's the thing, if you spent a year even learning how to become more confident and doing Toastmasters and practicing public speaking and taking a couple of maybe even free courses on salesmanship, even if your goal was to get a raise at your job, you'll be able to do it better because you have the skills of a negotiator and you can communicate more clearly, and you're not making emotional arguments or appeals in your stuff. You're making rational and logical and value-driven arguments. So that year means that for the rest of your life, whenever you negotiate a job, a contract, or even buying services for another person, you're always getting a better deal for the rest of your life if 1 year is spent learning communication skills and negotiating and salesmanship. Your life is better for the rest of your life, and you get a better deal for the rest of your life for the next 50 years if you learn that. And that's year 1. If you spend year 2 and you learn a software, you're less disposable than you were a year ago if you learn a software in the course of a year that a large number of people are not necessarily proficient at, because now you have the ability to have a side hustle that's valuable, and you could probably use that skill, make an extra $1,000 a month that you can't negotiate a $1,000 raise. So now in 2 years, through self improvement, you've actually made yourself very dangerous, because you have salespersonship and communication skills, and you have a new skill set that you can deploy to make extra money and capital. And then if you spend year 3 learning about stocks and investments, now you have this new capital to deploy and education that allows you to do it, and you have the capacity to earn more. 3 years, your life is looking really, really good compared to where it was 3 years ago. All of a sudden, there is nothing that you can leverage out of an employer in 3 years that is as valuable as those 3 years that I just told you to spend working on yourself. And if you spend year 4 really, really starting to understand productivity and scale and efficiency in life through work-life balance, energy management, and you spend that year, let's just say that you either spend that year addressing productivity by learning how to work smart, or spend that year addressing your productivity by learning like how your body works and working out and addressing your diet, your nutrition, your fitness. You spend a year just either working on your brain or your body. This 4-year plan will make your life better for the next 3-4 decades of your life than if you got 2 raises. I promise you it's not even close. It's not even close. And that's the difference between 4 years of trying to change the world, change the system, be a disruptor, versus focusing internally on acting on your own behalf and believing in your own ability to grow and change as a human, the same way you did as a little human. You spent every year improving as a little human from kindergarten to age 18, because no one gave you a choice. You would learn new things every day because no one really gave you a choice in the matter when you were a little human. You would learn new things about yourself. You would learn new things about taking care of your body because they would make you. You would learn new things about the world because they would make you. You would acquire a new skill every year multiple times over because they made you. We do not hold ourselves accountable as adults for any life improvements once we get out of school. We just don't. And that's the real thing that stops economic mobility and stops people from having better lives and thriving instead of surviving, is they let self-improvement stop when people stop holding them accountable.
It's called evolution, right? I mean, you're growing and you're becoming stronger. And the something else is the time that it takes, the time investment, right? If you do just wait around for that raise or that promotion, or you wait around for a system to change for you, we're talking about a very long time. A very long time. So just even looking at my own character arc, like if we look at the last 4 years, I have done so much more in those last 4 years than I did in the previous 10 years. And all it took was just a shift in, not just the mindset, because the mindset
But
has
the actual
always
habits.
been there, but the actual habits, and actually measuring what the input and the output, right? So like what was I doing that wasn't working, right? And then after 3 months, like analyzing that and seeing what wasn't working and changing it and making those micro adjustments year round. Because it doesn't help to just be like, oh, I'm doing this thing, I'm applying to 1,000 different jobs, and like this is happening, but like nothing's going on. Like I haven't seen any improvements, right? And it's because, well, something must be wrong, right?
Yeah. And you should always assume it's like, and again, people just, I don't think have the emotional capacity for this. I understand. Sometimes they'll take therapy or sometimes they'll take motivational speeches or something, but it's like, it's not the worst thing in the world to assume that if something's not working, the most likely conclusion is that I'm doing something wrong, and that might be not my fault, but it is my responsibility, because it's like, maybe I don't understand the thing that I'm doing as well as I think, or maybe my technique or form is wrong, and maybe I should consider it. Primary example, this is actually goes into the third topic of being coachable. This is perfect segue, right? When it's like, if somebody is like, man, I don't feel like I'm making any progress in this workout. Let's use sports because it's the thing that people can't argue with, because this is the thing that I try to teach people is, let's look at everything through the phrase of a sports analogy, because it's the thing we can't argue with, because it's your body, it's physics, it's like, it's just how it is. There's
rules.
No philosophical debate, like, right? Mm-hmm. So like, okay, if you're like, man, I'm doing all this work and I'm not like getting the results out of my workout that I want. It's like, well, let's look at it. It's like, okay, we can look at this as like, hey, did you know that you're lifting wrong, that you're literally lifting wrong, and that's you're not supposed to be hurting in the areas that you're hurting, and that, hey, did anyone ever teach you the proper technique for this? No, I just saw someone else doing this and lifting this way. It's like, well, that's not the proper technique, especially not for your body type. So you don't know how to get the result that you're looking for without hurting yourself. You're doing something very ineffectively, you're doing something very inefficiently, and you're not using the proper technique, and you're literally making things worse for yourself. You're not getting what you're supposed to get. In fact, you're setting yourself back. That's something that can be identified when somebody's form is incorrect and they're doing self-injury in a workout or in the way that they're operating in a sport. The other thing is expectations. You never played this sport before. Why would you win championships? Why would you be able to score against people who have been playing the game longer than you? So a lot of people's problem in life is they sit there and they look at unicorns, and they look at people who have been established, and they look at people. I'm like, if you're a freshman, why are you judging yourself by varsity players that are about to get recruited into the pro league? Why are you mentally measuring yourself against people who have state championships already? You don't even know the rules of how the game is played. You have zero time on the field. You have very little practice experience. You haven't even barely done this thing recreationally, or you've mistaken recreational and hobby league and what you did at the rec center for playing at a state level and competing. And That's not it, son. That's not it. Like, no, so you can't do that. It makes little sense. It's just self-abuse. It's just self-abuse. And that's my problem with the people who compare themselves to the millionaires and the billionaires. It's like, you aren't even competitive. Why are you even looking at them? You shouldn't even be paying attention to that. Why are you looking at someone with 1 million subscribers? Like, aside from seeing what's possible, that's the extent for you. You should look at a 1 million subscriber channel like this one time, and all you should see is what are their standards and what's possible, and say that that's something that the level of what they do is what I want to achieve, because that would then mean that I can have what they have. If I could, theoretically, if I can do what they do, or at least I would know I'm deserving, because my output is at the level of someone who the market said was deserving of that. So what I look at, and what I try to teach people, is from a coach, like from a coachable standpoint, is let's look at starting with building consistency. Let's not even worry about results yet. Let's focus on fundamentals first. Let's start with your education on the basic rules and principles. Why would you want to grow on YouTube if you why would you expect that you should grow on YouTube if you haven't been bothered to read the terms and service and conditions and community guidelines? Because regardless of what you do and how you grow or how successful you are, if you don't even know the rules, you can get all that success and have your channel terminated because you didn't play by the rules, because you violated the rules, because you did something that you weren't supposed to be doing, even if it worked. So not even knowing the rules is a really good baseline for the beginnings of your education. And the thing is, someone who's coaching you, theoretically, you should have at least read the rule book before you pursued coaching or courses or any of it. You should have at least made yourself familiar with the rules, if nothing else. And you probably should have gotten in some practice, if nothing else, and see what you can do on your own, so that when your coach says, what are you good at? What are you bad at? They have something to work with, so they know what to address. And it's like, and people won't even do that to put themselves in a position to be coachable. Another thing they don't do is they don't bother to try to do any self-education. I tell people, before you spend $1 on coaching or courses, before you spend any money, spend nothing. Look, if you want to learn something, can you tell me that you've read at least one book cover to cover on the subject matter? Can you tell me that you've listened to at least 10 hours of podcast of the journey of people who want the interviews, like listen to podcast interviews, 10 hours of interviews? Can you say that you've listened to 10 people who have been on the journey, and you've heard their story, their pitfalls, their shortcomings, their successes and failures, and that you have a good understanding of what to expect, and expectations versus reality, and assumptions proven wrong from 10 people's lived experience, so that you don't have to make their same mistakes? If you haven't done that baseline, you shouldn't be hiring a coach, and you shouldn't be buying a course, and you shouldn't worry about seminars, and you shouldn't worry about anything, because you haven't even done the work to be coachable and educated. You don't know the jargon, you don't know the terminology, you don't know the rules of the game, and you don't know what a reasonable expectation is. You don't know what success and failure would even look like. You know nothing, Jon Snow. So you're not even someone who can be taught yet.
You know what the problem is, though, right? We all know what the problem is, Roberto. Everybody in today's world wants that instant gratification. They want that instant overnight success. They want that Peter McKinnon life. They want that Janelle the Fangirl life. They want that Kelly Stamp life. And we all know that
unicorns.
Those are outliers, right? They're unicorns. They're outliers. But people feel like they can do it. Why can't I do it? No, those people are literally like the exception to the rule.
The most reasonable version of being successful on YouTube, in any time frame, is just to get your channel monetized. Because the problem is, there are 100 million global channels worldwide. There's only 50 million active uploaders a month, but there's between an estimated 75 to 100 million. My sources say 100 million with regard to YouTube worldwide, 100 million worldwide. There are only 3 million creators, according to YouTube's own public and PR team. There's only 3 million global YouTube creators that are monetized in the YouTube Partner Program. That's an absurd failure rate to even get monetized. 97% of all content creators on this platform, if that number, even if you want to use the more conservative version of these numbers, less than 10% of people on the platform are even monetized, meaning their capacity to even generate a single dollar in ad revenue, super chats, and they have none of those resources. So that's already a big problem. Less than 10% of all YouTube channels make 10,000 subscribers. So you're first baseline of a reasonable amount of success is not becoming Peter McKinnon or Janelle, the Van Life girl, or Kelly Stamps or Emma Chamberlain. Your most reasonable outcome to say that you're a successful YouTuber is just getting your channel monetized, and getting to 10,000 subscribers beyond that is gold star. It's not gold play button. It's not silver play button like me, but it is a gold star because like it is literally, it disqualifies 90% of people who try to even get to that goal. So if you achieve that goal, you beat 90% of the people who even start the journey. That is more than enough success. That is more than enough success to count. And people don't understand that, and that's a reasonable outcome to work towards.
Roberto,
Just get monetized.
finger down, man.
He got that knock on wood thing going on over there. We like that.
Just get monetized. Just getting monetized would be the first real success that you can really say is I achieved something that most people on this platform, like if success is, did I perform above average? Performing above average is getting a channel monetized. To be very honest, that in itself is an outlier. You want to be an outlier? You'd be an outlier just by getting your channel monetized. You'd be an outlier just by making 100 edited videos, not live streams where you didn't edit or like 100 videos would be an outlier output of effort, or rather input of effort. An outlier input of effort, regardless of outcome, is making your first 100 videos. An outlier is consistently uploading for 1 year without missing a single week of uploads, 52 in a chain. That's a habit most people are not capable of performing. Most people cannot do that. These are the things that are reasonable things that you can control and do for the most part that would make you an outlier just by effort and inputs alone, not outcomes. Outlier outcomes that are not unreasonable are getting monetized on YouTube. And beyond that, another reasonable outlier outcome is 10,000 subscribers. The number of people that have gotten silver play buttons compared to the number of people who have tried to do YouTube is so minuscule. It's not even 1 million people who've done it. There are more people every year that become millionaires than people who've gotten 1 million subscribers on YouTube. In the entire 15 years YouTube has been around, more people become millionaires from nothing than that. You have a better chance of being a millionaire than being a successful YouTuber, and it's not even close. That sounds crazy, but it's true.
A lot of people hear the conversation, but they're not ready for it though. Romina, did we talk about the topic that you want to talk about tonight?
Yeah, robots.
Automation.
Okay.
It was automation and robot. I mean, we can circle back to that because again, I think I've kind of made like
No, I think both of them kind of go hand in hand a little bit because I mean, the idea behind the robots too is like, it's not just the robo-taxis, but also the Optimus robot, which is the robot that Elon says is going to change what the word economy means because of the fact that his idea behind the robot is to have it do tasks that are now being taken over by humans doing those jobs, right? So having making these tasks be autonomous, right? And so that, like Roberto said earlier, is displacing a number of people who don't want to change, right? Or who don't want to. And that does
people who'll be left behind.
In hand with what you're saying with the people who can't be coached, right?
You lead, follow, or you get left behind. I'm trying to minimize the number of people who get left behind in the revolutions of technological innovation, financial literacy, the creator economy opportunities that exist, intelligence and creativity-based skill sets. I'm trying to save people from themselves, creative-minded people who are like me. I can't do much about people who aren't creative except encourage them to go into the trades. That's the most I can do for people who aren't creative, is encourage them to go into trades, electrician, plumbing, carpentry, because those things will be too nuanced for automation and robotics to take over in the next 100 years. That's a 22nd century problem. But I believe that by the end of the 21st century will be the beginning of the post-labor economy. And I think we're already in the era to where we are in an economy of ideas because people who use their mind out-earn everybody who uses their body. everyone who uses their mind will out earn anyone who uses their body. That's the truth of the 21st century. It was even true the second half of the 20th century, and people didn't get the memo about the fact that labor is the thing that will disproportionately be devalued at scale, and it has almost every decade that you've been alive. Every decade that you've been alive, labor has been less valuable because there's more technology to displace it.
Roberto, so I agree with you that automation is going to displace a lot of people, but the system as it is currently designed today is designed pretty much to hold people down into the laborious.
I disagree. No, how is it designed to hold people down? I disagree.
I mean, we always talk about how, they don't teach you about financial literacy enough in college and different things like that. And then people go into their 9-to-5 jobs and they are pretty much beholden to that structure of the 9-to-5.
Does a public library exist and it costs $0?
It does.
All right. You do realize that any book on basic economics exists in a public library? Every book that could be used to give you an advantage, you could literally teach yourself for $0, whether you use the internet or a public library. Could you or could you not teach yourself another language for $0?
Absolutely.
Could you or could you not learn sign language for $0? Someone who knows another language fluidly and someone who knows sign language fluidly, is that person more valuable or less valuable than someone who doesn't?
They were more valuable.
What dollar cost is it right now for anyone who really wants to learn video editing? How much money do they have to spend?
None. They know they're doing.
How much money does someone have to spend to learn coding right now?
None. Literally none.
How much money does someone have to learn basic web development right now?
Zero.
How much money does someone have to spend to learn graphic design right now? How much money does someone have to learn community management and social media management right now? $0.
Zero.
Right? So, and that's accessible to anyone who has access to the internet right now. Over 85% of Americans have access to broadband internet or more. Therefore,
right. Right. That's the question. What are they doing though?
Right. Therefore, and people were self-taught before the internet. There were people who taught themselves literally how to read on their own. Rare that they might be. But right now, the capacity to learn anything that is a highly valuable skill set that can produce an income of anywhere from $55,000 to $85,000 a year is something that's accessible to learn if it is something that is technical or creative in nature for $0, and there's nobody that is legally stopping you from doing that. And in terms of the availability and logistics of people's time, everyone who says they're being held by the system, if I audit their goddamn life, I will find 3 hours of screen time on their smartphone for entertainment on average every single fucking day.
Okay.
Do you really?
Let me rephrase this. Maybe I use the wrong phrase. They're not held down. What I'm saying is that there are a lot of people that don't take the opportunity, like you just highlighted, to self-teach themselves new skills. So when these robots start taking over and all of these skills that were labor intensive are going away, these people have to go somewhere. They're just not going to dip off of the map. So
my answer is we should have made trade skills. We should make trade skills. The only failings here are the things.
Other jobs. The thing is that there will be an evolution of jobs. So the market of jobs available is going to expand, number one. Because
there's an infinite number of opportunities to earn income right now. There's an infinite number of opportunities to earn income right now. Teenagers are not going and working at McDonald's anymore. They're going online and they're out earning their parents within 5 to 8 years.
So, Romina, when you say there's going to be an
teenagers working those entry-level jobs anymore, you see 30-something-year-old people, and they're barely competing with teenagers anymore because teenagers have figured out that they can just learn something online and skip working at McDonald's.
I've met children who make $20, $30, who make their allowance, like their summer allowance. They make it off of doing posts, sponsored content on their Instagrams.
I know people who go onto user testing every day, and they earn an extra $50 most days out of the week. They earn an extra $150 a week on average by doing usertesting.com, and it takes them no time because every user test is less than 10 minutes. They have to do them at random different intervals throughout the day, but they end up spending less than an hour a day of extra time doing user testing. They spend less than that, an hour a day. By the end of a week, they've probably put 3 to 4 hours into user testing and earned more than they would have made from an 8-hour shift, like on average.
There's so many other types of jobs. And if we start thinking about a society entering a post
Post labor.
post scarcity,
Mhm.
post labor first. But if we think about it in terms of like post scarcity, where we get to a point where money is not something that is as required because of the fact that we have so much autonomous technology around us. If we think about it in terms of that, what would you do, Vipe, um, if you had an extra 20 or 30 hours a week where you didn't have to work? What would you do right now? Like starting tomorrow, you don't have to work. You now have another time has changed, something happened to the sun, and days are now longer. You've got 20 to 30 hours extra every week. What are you doing?
Wow, I'll probably get some more sleep for a starter. But other than that, I mean, I would probably teach myself more skills as it relates to creation and different things like that. So that's
There
what
you
I
go. And that's a job. So that's where all those people are going to go. Because now all of a sudden they have the time, first of all, right? Because they're changing. And I'm assuming that these are people that have either saved up or they have some kind of like there's some kind of relief program that's going to help these people transition into some kind of other work or skill or trade. That's number one. And then number two, there's going to be an expansion of like the different types of jobs that are going to be available. Like mainly if we're talking about robots, okay, then we're going to need engineers. Not only are we going to need engineers, but we're going to need marketing people, right? We're going to need a whole team of marketing people, because if you think that you are just going to be able to put a robot in everybody's living room with
And not
every
have to
have
we're
any
going to need marketers, app developers, graphic designers, UI UX interface
you gotta
designers,
convince
coders. We're going to need all
you
these
gotta
skilled
convince
labor. We're going to
right
need nothing
now.
but skilled labor.
Right now, people have a problem putting a little Alexa in their house, right?
Right.
Because they got a little machine that's listening to them 24/7. Can you
Yeah, we're
imagine
going
if
to have installation people for all the systems that allow for the Wi-Fi to connect and do the firmware. We're going to need all these. So we're still going to need tradespeople. We will always need tradespeople. At least for another 250 years, we'll need tradespeople, at least. So, I mean, and then after that, we still need good hospitality people, because there'll be human services that require human touch. And those will be prized and valuable, and those will do well. And hospitality already does well. If you work in the hospitality industry, if it's high end, right? So there'll be all these things. The problem is, it's like here's the truth. It's hard. It's harsh. The only people that financially struggle and suffer are people who are competing with 16 to 18-year-olds for jobs, because you bring up a register, serve food, and move boxes. And I hate saying it that way because it sounds dismissive and cruel, but I want you to understand, if people had unlimited time at between 16 and 18 to do those jobs, would you be able to compete with them after age 30? And the answer is no. The only reason that people have those jobs who are in their 30s is because labor laws exist, thank God, that stop young people from taking those jobs. Because the problem is, if a 16 to 18-year-old can be taught your job in 30 days and do it as well as somebody who's been there 6 months, yes, your job is quite literally disposable. And I think people's problem is they're equating their market value with their human value. They think their employers are doing that. Their employers have that separation. Their employers are not worried about conflating their human value and their market value, because I guarantee you their employers are treating them as human beings with regard to respecting everything the law says in terms of people's human rights. What people think, though, is that if you're not valuing me and paying me what I think I'm worth, or paying me in such a way to have the lifestyle that I want, you don't value me as a person. It is not an employer's responsibility to be your parent and to care after your well-being past the point of not trying to do you any grievous harm. That's what the law says. People can make all the moral and ethical arguments they want about it. Your employer is not obligated to care about you individually as a person. They're obligated to make sure that they're providing what they're legally required to provide to you. And people want to move the goalpost on the rule of law to make that you have to provide and give me the lifestyle that I want, and you have to parent me, and that's not reasonable at all. When the reality is, if you don't like the circumstances that your employment provides, it's your obligation and duty to move up the ladder in employment. In the 1950s, when Black people in this country had very, very little options, a lot of them would go ahead in the 1950s and 60s, they would study in all of their free time and give up all their social life, and they would go to night school, and they would start to try to gain their way to more prestigious professions by going to law school, going to nursing school, and doing all these things. And they would do that, and they weren't necessarily given the resources to do that. And those industries were still gatekept against Black people and immigrants in this country, and they still excelled at a rate far superior to the rate that people do economic mobility today. And they were some of the most discriminated people against in the history of this country. And the same thing for immigrants, and their ability with less technology, less resources, less laws in their favor, their level of scaling economic mobility starting from nothing was better than the average 20-something-year-old today, with every advantage available to them, less discrimination than there's ever been in the history of this country, in the history of this world. Every opportunity. What rights don't people think they have? What opportunities don't think they have? Because why is it that people's ancestors and the ancestors of people who were literally denied their basic humanity able to comparatively beat you in economic mobility when they had less resources, less laws in their favor, and less media in their favor, and were truly denied their humanity? What excuse do people think they really have? Because every data point says they don't. Why do people think they're more oppressed than immigrants and Black people from the 1950s? Why do people think they have less economic mobility? What, because they're getting lesser results? Maybe they need to look at themselves with that. Maybe they look at themselves a little harder, because the history does not lie when it comes to how disadvantaged people were 75 years ago compared to today, and still would beat you. If I resurrected those people in today's market conditions, they would destroy everybody. If I take somebody from 1955 and I place them in America today in their 20s, they'll destroy these kids.
Yep, you are not kidding, man. I think we were just having a conversation earlier about how our ancestors would come and outwork everybody today just because they had it a lot harder. Everybody. They put people to shame. They'll put people to shame out here today.
It's not even close. It's not even close. That's why I wake up grateful every day. Because I already know my grandparents came here and they had it hard. Like, they had it hard. Whatever my worst day is would be a blessing to them. Whatever the worst day in my life is, they'd be grateful for.
Yeah, I think also too. I think it's worth emphasizing that we do have it good, and that a lot of the things that we talked about in this episode are very centric to where we live, which is North America. Yep. And so this might not be applicable if you're listening from somewhere else in the world.
No, it's really not.
So we are aware of that.
Yeah. but that's what we're emphasizing. We're emphasizing the advantages of being alive today and in America.
Leaders, though, right? That we can be the leaders in that, and that if we get it first, then hopefully that trickles to the rest of the world, right?
Mm-hmm. I remember back in, I think probably 15, 20 years ago, I used to have to get out of bed, get in my car, and drive to a service center to pay my bills. Now I can literally lay in my bed, pull out my phone, press buttons, and have all of my bills paid within 5 minutes, never leaving my bed.
I don't even have to go to the places that I've automated everything. I don't even have to go to cash a check. If I receive a check in the mail for whatever reason, I can just if they send me a physical check, and I've got sent physical checks on brand deal stuff before, I can literally just scan it with my phone, and it's as good as putting in an ATM, and the money's available. The money's available. Like, can you imagine like not ever having to wait?
Remember when you had to pay somebody, or somebody had to pay you, and then they paid you with a check, and then you had to pray that it wouldn't bounce? Because you're just like, oh man. Like, I used to do here's the thing. I used to do headshot photography, right? And so I had a lot of like deadbeat actors just like come to my studio, and I had to take pictures of them, and like they paid me with a check, right? Because there was no other way to do it. Like Square was still like a thing that was like up and coming. Like there was no way of just like sharing that, right? And then like PayPal was like a thing that was like, yeah, if I want to do that, then all the fees are going to go towards PayPal. And it was just really complicated, and it was just so much easier to either get cash or get a check. And so like there you are, you get this check and you got to go immediately to the bank to deposit it because you don't know if this actor's got money in the bank account.
Exactly. Because they might in good faith have money right that moment, but might not
But then
balance
if
their
you
books.
cash it three days later, if you
They ain't
deposit
gonna
it,
have that money then. Yeah.
that money, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This has been an incredible conversation we've had tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, some final thoughts that I have rounding a lot of this out is I think that a lot of people they overestimate what they're deserving of and underestimate what they're capable of drastically. And I think it loops around all three of our conversations because to start with like vipers, what other people have has nothing to do with you. Stay out their pockets. It ain't got nothing to do with you. And you're not entitled to any percentage of what they earn. And they don't have to spend their money on what you think is appropriate and ethical because no one's beholden to what you think is ethical or moral. And thank God in America, at least, thank God in America, no one's beholden to what you think an ethical or moral standard can be because we have people that are all over the world who are living in horror stories right now under the tyranny of the fact that they exist as a person outside of the ethics of the place that they live in. Like they literally, their humanity is not allowed because they exist outside the morals and ethics of the country they were born in. So you should thank God every day that you live in a country where the rule of law says you have to coexist with people you don't like and that don't like you. And they have to respect you and value you as a human being and not infringe on you. Because there are plenty of countries you could have been born in where what you and who you are and who you choose to be, not allowed. And you're fair game if people catch you out in them streets. You could be born in one of those countries and like God help you because they'd be the only one who could, you know, and that's just how it is. So thank God we don't have a place where what you believe or I believe is the standard and that no one's allowed to exist outside of our morals or our ethics and everything. And to where the reality is that you just have to let people do what they want to do as human beings, as long as they ain't breaking the law and as long as they're not infringing on your personhood, your individual sovereignty, your property rights, your free speech. And you thank God in America, you get to live and let live, at least as far as the law is concerned. Because you should be very grateful because there's plenty of people who don't have that. And there are plenty of people who actually used to live in this country and be born in this country who also didn't have that. So you should be grateful.
Yeah, we definitely live in a privileged part of the world. Absolutely, no doubt about it. And if you're complaining about capitalism, I prefer capitalism over anything else that's going on out there.
Everything other than capitalism, I'll be real with you, Viper. Romina, you too. Like, I'll be real with you. People who look like us and have our backgrounds, have our ethnic backgrounds, anything but capitalism ain't really worked out for us. Not really. Not historically. Nobody here, no system other than capitalism has ever allowed people with our ethnic backgrounds a chance or opportunity. And the systems created by things outside of capitalism did not respect our humanity. Did not. So I ain't here for it. And I ain't here for playing with them ideas. I don't know how many more people like have to be massacred before y'all stop thinking that those are good ideas to play with, you know? And y'all know who I'm talking about. Like you Mao apologist, you Stalin apologist out there, you guys apologizing for like Engels racist ass. Yeah, y'all know who you are. Y'all sitting here apologizing for all these people that have massive freaking body counts and everything like that. It's like, yeah. Mm-hmm. And you want to say capitalism's worse and everything. Worse for who?
Podcast and rated R.
Worse for who? Yeah, I'm keeping it real. So like on Romina's point, automation, looping it around, automation. Our individual responsibility to educate ourselves. And yes, I think education, look, if I could change anything tomorrow, I snap my fingers, education reforms. Absolutely. I snap my fingers tomorrow, trade schools. So like I snap my fingers tomorrow, financial literacy. And I snap my fingers tomorrow, to be real, healthcare. But I fix those. And that's it. I'm because after that, it's all on you. Everything's your fault after that. If you have a Pokemon center and you can heal, and I give you the rule book for financial literacy.
Do you think the robots will fix this? Do you think the robots will fix this? Like, I feel like if we get those robots, because if the robot has, because we're talking about AI here, right? And we just present them.
Actually good.
We present them with what our current systems are like, they'll realize how inefficient we are at running it, and give us suggestions and change things and make it run more efficiently.
I agree with that, because that truthfully, when any time a machine learning diagnoses what I'm doing wrong, it betters me every time, because it tells me, like, think about how many people's lives have improved because Viper, you know about this. How many people's, like Jonathan Morrison talked about, how many people's lives have improved because the Apple Watch or the Aura Ring told them what was wrong with them, and they made corrective habits to their daily life because of that.
Yep.
For their health, because they didn't have to wait on a doctor and could basically have a diagnostic on their body to say, I need to do right, I need to do better, this is bad.
True story. Absolutely.
Robots will save us. AI will save us. Automation and technology will save us, because it will actually improve our ability to take care of ourselves and our health, and it'll hold us accountable when we don't. Like, so it'll be better. It'll be better for the people who aren't doing the bare minimum. Because here's the thing: if you think that all the value you have is literally moving boxes from one part of a place to another and packing it, a robot can do that. You need the fact that you have the opportunity to do that to earn money is supposed to be a temporary part of your life for as little as possible, because you are capable of more than that, because you have the same capacity as much more productive human beings than that. It's not being utilized, and you're not taking advantage of it.
You are worth more than you think.
You're worth more than you think. And the thing is, I would change education to help you understand that and to prepare you much more for that. But I don't have control over that.
Let me add to that, because that can be taken out of context in the wrong way. You are worth more than you think, but you are not entitled to more.
To more than you. Yeah, right. I agree. Fire on that. Fire on that. Because here's the thing. I think it's your responsibility to work harder at achieving your potential and doing more and contributing more. And because like you like, okay, like, did you have a worthy goal or a worthy dream? Because no one dreams of being a food server. No one dreams of working at Amazon warehouse. No one dreams of working at a
all right, some people do. Let's not generalize, but some people do.
Almost nobody. Almost nobody. That's not their childhood dream.
It's very small.
Minuscule, not worth counting. No, like so the thing is, if you want your dream, your career or job may not be your dream, but is your career or job capable of allowing you to have your dream at some point? Because here's the thing: there was a childhood dream that I had that I quote unquote gave up on, but I gave up on in the context of realizing it would not make me happy to do that thing for a career. Because my dream was to do animation and work for Disney or Marvel. I think we've ascertained with my personality that it's better that even if I had the talent, or even if I had pursued or given the opportunity, it's probably better that I didn't, because my creativity would have been stifled, leveraged, and I wouldn't have been given the credit that I would have want. It would probably not, and I probably wouldn't have been able to work for people who I wasn't compatible with, because I can't help myself. So it's probably better for me that didn't work out, or that I never attained that. Instead, by being an entrepreneur and doing other things that I like, that I'm good at, that help people, that people want from me, and that are wildly profitable, it means that I actually have started to pursue the dream of animation in a different way. Not me being an animator, but me being able to pay people to do animated stuff with me with the Zen Buster music stuff. And I have other plans for that. I actually plan to have a fully animated, like, music video type trailer thing done. At some point, I'm actually going to throw thousands of dollars at an original short run animation series, and that's all I really want. There's an old story that I'm looking at that might be public domain, that was a childhood story that I really liked a lot, that I might want to commission having and fund it being retold and reanimated as a feature length, and I might pay to have that done independently and then have it picked up. So like but I can finance that out of pocket. I don't need it to be a career I can live off of, because what I realized, what I wanted to do is I always wanted to create. I realized that I thought that creating joy for people in the way that I was as a child meant I had to be an animator. What I realized as I got older is that I wanted to teach people how to create. I wanted to create on my own things that I like, and I wanted control to tell the stories and say the things that I wanted. I wanted to be able to express myself. And the thing is, I found that for me, the ability to do that actually exists outside of being employed by someone, to have freedom. So I was able to figure out that my dream wasn't my dream. It was the easiest thing I was able to come up with as a child to express what I wanted.
Yeah, I would argue that the majority of people are not ambitious, right? So the three of us that are in here, we are ambitious, but I also feel we are a minority in terms of like the population at large, and just having traveled and talked to a wide range of people from many diverse backgrounds. It seems to me that the majority of people are very complacent and are happy with just being average. Now,
You know what?
that being said, I'm not saying
next podcast, let's have Audrey, when we have Audrey back next podcast, let's dedicate
you
the
want-
entire, if we do, let's dedicate next episode's podcast entirely to the American dream. Because I think that you're right.
I think that's worth talking about, because I feel like, so now I'm not saying that being average is bad. I think that if you do want to just be average and you don't want to have like the big thing and like own a company and like starting a brand and do all that, I think that's fine. I don't want to discourage people from just being average.
I'm not saying it's bad to be average.
No, I know. And I'm not saying that you are, but I'm also saying this just because I think that there's a difference between having an average job that's just, hey, I'm here to just do work and not really be innovative in the sense of like creating something new and something that's like completely mine, to the difference between that and doing a job that is very autonomous, and is mundane, because those are the jobs that can be replaced by robots.
Romina, do you think it's fair to say this, or what do you think about this, YouTube Viper? Here's my problem. I think if you showed people for what they think an average job is, if you showed them, here's what an average job results in lifestyle in every one of the 50 states in America. So here is what you wanting to do average things. Here's what the least and most lifestyle it could buy you is, and here's what that looks like. And this is what you will have. You will have this or less than this. And that's your life until you die. Do you think most people would say, I'm okay with that, and that I'm just going to, and that's all I aspire to? And that because I think the problem is that people want to be average, do the bare minimum, not work really hard, but they want all the things that people who are above average have. They want those things, but they do not want to do what above average people do.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the problem.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. They want the glory, but they don't want to put in the work. Absolutely.
Because the thing is, because here's the thing. If you want the American dream, you should make the median income or a little better than the median income. And guess what the median income is? Both of you. Do both of you know what the median income in America is? Which means what over half of people earn? Huh?
$55,000.
$55,000. So the thing is, anyone can look up what jobs pay $55,000, and that's the median income. And anyone can look up what lifestyle $55,000 gets you in the state that you live. And I can tell you, you can be a homeowner and make $55,000 a year if you don't have kids. If you make $55,000 a year and you have a partner that makes $35,000 or $55,000 and y'all don't have kids, y'all can definitely be homeowners, absolutely, as dual income. Y'all can do that if you have one kid and neither of you had children out of wedlock and are paying alimony or child support. There are conditions to the life that you want. There are strings. And everybody, I might write a book about this one day. Everybody can have the American dream, but they don't have a plan. They do not have a 10 or 15-year plan for living a life after 18 years old that produces the American dream. And the life that produces the American dream is don't drop out of high school. That's number one. Number two, the life that produces the American dream, do not have children out of wedlock. That mostly is a big factor in whether you get the American dream or not, male or female. Number two, if you're going to get married and you want the American dream, marry someone who's not going to work against you and stay married. Marry someone who's not going to work against you and stay married. So if you're going to get married, be selective and have standards about your mate. It can't always be helped, but try not to get into a situation where it's going to deteriorate into you feeling abused or taken for granted or advantage of, or where you're going to do that to somebody else. And it's, again, I'm sorry, but that might mean being very choosy, very selective, and it might mean waiting. This is a choice that might have to be made if you want the American dream. And it's very hard to have the American dream in a marriage where somebody's working actively against you, or where you have to then divorce them and know that you have someone in your life that you're tied to that's still working against you despite your desire to separate from them. This is as someone who's a child of divorce, I can speak to, as a child of divorce, I can speak to how that impacts your circumstances and your children if that should happen. And so I think people have to make extraordinarily sober choices between the ages of 18 and 30, or if you go to college, you have to make sober choices for the next 15 years after college, whatever it is. After you become an adult and you're on your own, you have to make sober choices for the next 10 to 15 years about how you want to live your life. And then it's possible to have the American dream by the time you're 35 or 40.
Do you realize that you just said that people need to be choosy about their mate? The fact that you actually have to say that out loud just blows my mind.
I do, because what happens, a lot of people make really dumb decisions when they're young, and they get stuck with people that will work against them for the rest of their lives. I'm not joking. It's a very serious problem. It's a very serious problem that people make very dumb decisions when they're young, and they get stuck, whether they stay married to those people or not. Those people are in your life. Once you get married or you have kids, those people are in your life, and it's almost irrevocably true. And you can have someone in your life that is irrevocably tied to you in some way, shape, or form that is working against you for the rest of your life. Be very careful about that.
What were you going to say, Romina?
Yeah, think about having to be picky about the person that you're going to wake up next to every morning.
I mean, I would think that would be like something that people would naturally like be picky about, but.
Yeah. The other thing is, as far as affordability, you can make a 5 to 10 year plan and you can be a homeowner, because I'll tell you, because again, the median income, not the median, meaning more than half of the people in America make $55,000 a year. So here's the thing about affording a home.
Median in America is $55,000.
$55,000. Here's the thing. Okay, so all things being equal, if you're following the rules of true frugality, whatever your income is, set aside 10% of it. If it's $55,000 a year, let's assume that after tax income is maybe $45,000 a year. If you're saving, let's say you don't even save the full 10%. Let's say you save a little less than that. That's still $3,000 a year, which means in 5 years, you could be a homeowner if you're after 5 years of earning the median income and setting aside $3,000. You can buy almost any starter home in America. Now, this would presume that you're single income, no kids at $55,000. If you're a couple and one of you makes $55,000 and the other makes $35,000, and you're making $80,000, $90,000 a year, and let's say after taxes, let's say that you're making $70,000 a year, y'all can definitely get into a home by saving 10% of your combined net income after taxes. You can save that, and y'all can be in a home in 2 to 3 years and be a starter home. Why? Do not look at the average home price in America being $500,000, because even if you did, down payments don't need to be 20%. That is a myth, because I'll tell you, on a $500,000 home, the PMI on that is going to be like $200 extra a month. $200 extra a month is not worth you thinking that what you need to come up with is $100,000 or $80,000 for a down payment on a home, when what you actually need is you can put down 3%, 5%. And see, again, that's still more house than you need as a starter home. Starter homes in America, if you live anywhere but New York and California, you can get into a good 3-bedroom ranch-style house for between $150,000 to $250,000 almost anywhere in America that's not New York or California. And so that means that even with a 10% down payment, we're still under $25,000, and I'm telling you, you can put a 5% down payment, and then even with your closing cost, which are mostly just going to be fees, title, some initial taxes, and your inspection and your appraisal. I've done this homeowning process last year, and I bought twice as much house as any of you probably need to start with buying. So I can tell you, you can get into a house for under $15,000 in America that's under a $250,000 house, or even up to a $300,000 house in America, securing a loan, and you can do that. And first-time homeowner programs massively underutilized, just like the poets are saying. So everyone's saying, oh, I'll never be able to afford a house. Are you saying you really literally don't have the discipline to save up $15,000 over any period of time Really? Is that what we're saying? You don't have the capacity to save up anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 over any period of time, whether it's 5 years or 10 years, because the time will pass anyway. The time will pass anyway. So that's a discipline issue. That's a discipline issue. And if it's an earning issue, you know what jobs pay what. Qualify for a better paying job.
Where's your heart
at? The time will pass anyway. The time will pass anyway. Even if it takes you 4 years, even if you got to go back to school, even if you got to train and do something else, the time will pass anyway. So what's the difference between, oh, you got to work extra hard for 5 years to go from 35,000 to 55,000, then you got to spend another 5 years to save up for a home? What's the difference? The time will pass anyway. What's the difference between working for 10 to 15 years to check all the boxes you want on the American dream? What's the difference? The time will pass anyway.
He said, "Is your heart into it, y'all?" That's what he's talking. That's what he's saying.
People say they want it. They don't want it because wanting it is working.
He's questioning y'all. He's questioning y'all motivation out here, y'all.
Wanting it is working. If someone said, "I want to be an Olympic athlete," and you didn't, and they didn't. If someone said, "I want to be an Olympic athlete," at 10 years old, and you didn't see them for the rest of their life after 10 years old, if you didn't see them training every day, if you didn't see them doing nothing but researching and watching and training and cutting out sugar and dieting and working out and building muscle and not dating and doing all the things that Olympic athlete does, you would tell them, you don't want that. That's a dream. That's a fantasy. You ain't working for that. You would tell them so. You would call them out if they said they wanted to be that. If someone said they want to be the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be, and their actions did not add up to that, you would tell them, you don't want that. That's not a dream. That's not a desire you have. It's a wish. It's a fantasy. You're just saying you want that. Like, you ain't working for it. You'd call them out. You know you would. Someone says they want to be a student and they ain't studying, they don't want it.
Romina Faith over there, she's like, yep.
Before we wrap up, I want to come back to the automation thing. I think that absolutely jobs of all different types are going to be replaced ultimately. I mean, we already have AIs that create artwork. Great artwork.
I don't think creativity will be fully replaced just because I don't think they can anticipate what we'll like.
Not replaced, but we will have
competition.
I don't want to say competition because that seems like, I feel like, yes, it would have been competition in the past, but in the future, when we get to this stage, it's not really competition. It's just going to be another artist that's out in the market.
Oh, I see. Yeah, no, I would think of them as another human being in a way, because again, it's an artificial intelligence. It's an intelligence. What's the difference? Like the automated influencers.
Like we're going to go to exhibits and it's going to be artwork that was all created by a single robot, right? So stuff like that. I mean, like we already have AI that you can input certain parameters. Like you just give it a prompt of like, I would like a frog that's sitting on a chair.
They're going to write, some AI is going to write the script for the best film of all that's going to sweep the Grammys.
The robot will create that artwork. So
in
like
15 years, I guarantee you an AI can probably write
in the middle of a sentence. So like so there is an AI right now where you can put in these prompts and it will create that artwork.
Yeah.
And that is currently something that exists right now, right? And so this is an extreme point. But if we're thinking specifically about like working at a factory, for example, or doing a job, there's so many things that, like, for example, like clerical work, like working in an office, like an assistant's job. Like why would a human be better at doing research than an AI, for example?
It can't scale it at all. Like, even in a doctor's office, the AI is better at interpreting and reading the scans, and it has better eyes than us. It can interpret those and find a lump that a human would miss. And it's doing that now. It's finding the X-ray readouts and CT scans. The AI is doing a better job of diagnosing tumors, cancer, growths, cysts than humans are, because humans' eyes are weak and frail and they age, where robotics do not, and they only improve over time, and they can see granular details we can't. So they're superior. Everything that a robot is superior to us at, we shouldn't mourn the loss of the displacement and the replacement and the outsourcing. The only reason to mourn that is if you believe that the only value you had was as something that's like where you were an organic cog in a machine was the only value that you had, which is selling yourself dramatically short. Because I feel the reality is it's people that are emotionally, like, you want to say people are downtrodden, they're emotionally downtrodden. There's not systems and things in place that I believe truly like stop people. Now, in terms of not giving them everything they could, yes. But if someone was determined, the problem is to be above average is successful, like you or the baseline of average has not shifted to something really favorable, because that's another thing we could do. We could change what average is, and average could end up being really, really, really good, really well off. That could change. But I think that's what's changing things in our systems would just shift the goalpost to where the baseline of the minimum that someone can does is actually really, really, really dope. But it still is compared to like many years ago if people are trying, if people are serious. But the difference is effort and motivation largely. And I think people are unmotivated. And I think they're discouraged. But I somewhat think it's also their own fault. Because here's the thing. If someone psychologically was hypnotized to not ever be envious or jealous of what other people had, I think they'd be unstoppable. I think literally everybody who thinks that they're depressed and downtrodden, because I think the real problem is, here's the problem I think that people make themselves depressed looking at millionaires and billionaires and wishing they had what they had and being angry at them for having it. And I think that's the thing that's I think the thing that's demotivating people the most is just seeing what other people have. If I literally Jedi mind tricked everybody who thinks that they're downtrodden into never feeling like a victim, if they never were capable intellectually of internalizing victimhood, never internally capable of feeling sorry for themselves, they would become successful. They would absolutely, because they would not have, there would be no demotivation for them. For real, there'd be no demotivation for them.
I love the look on Romina's face when you just said that, because I think we were thinking the exact same thing. It is a damn waste of time to like be depressed about what other people are doing in the world. Please stop. No.
If you are sad that billionaires exist, it's not them that's the problem.
It's not their fault.
It's you.
Yep.
It's you, because you can't coexist knowing that someone has it that disproportionately better than you is a flaw, not in a system that rewarded them. It's a flaw in your brain punishing you for things that exist outside of your control. That's a you problem. And it may not be that you're the origin point of that you problem. That might be a result of your upbringing, your trauma, or the people around you, or the people in your echo chamber, or the media. It is a you problem in terms of you taking responsibility to address it one way or another, whether that's getting over it, going to therapy, or changing your internal narrative, or you're changing your results to where you're less concerned about what other people have because you're happy with what you have. And you could be happy with what you have by working to attain more, or being content where you are and realizing it's a lot better than a lot of other people, maybe even your parents or grandparents or great grandparents. You could either shift it by being grateful for what you have, working to have more, or being unconcerned with what other people have, or you could do all of them, or you could do all of them.
All right, Mina, it's all you.
Word up.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to end it. So I'll do the outro if everyone's cool with that.
Pretty cool.
Mighty cool.
Right. Thank you for listening to the No Assembly Required podcast, a podcast where we talk about nothing. Thank you to our special guest, Viper, the man about tech, my co-hostess with the mostest, Romina with the good hair, and of course, this has been your Dark Lord of the interwebs, your eternal doom, Roberto Blake. We will be back next week, maybe with or without Viper, depending on Audrey, sus as hell Ember's availability, and we will regale you with another exciting topic. I believe we're dedicating next episode to the American dream and how it can be attainable for you. So stay tuned. Make sure you like, subscribe, and review, and we'll catch you next week. Nah.